Room 412. That's what the nurse told him. Room 412, fourth floor, your son will be there after his x-ray. Simple instructions, but Marcus Thompson read it wrong, exhausted, panicked. Terrified his 7-year-old was badly hurt. He burst through the door of room 421 instead. One wrong number, 9 seconds of confusion, and behind that door, a woman lying alone, dying of cancer, crying in the darkness because her family stopped visiting and the doctors just told her she had 6 months to live. He should have apologized and left. Any normal person would have, but Marcus Thompson wasn't normal anymore. 3 years earlier, he buried his wife after a drunk driver killed her. 3 years of raising his son alone. 3 years of working 2 jobs just to survive. 3 years of feeling absolutely nothing, until he saw Elena Martinez in that hospital bed, and something inside his dead heart cracked open. He sat down, a complete stranger, and asked, "Are you okay?" She told him the truth. "I'm dying and I'm alone. What happened next will break you and rebuild you." Because Marcus didn't just visit her the next day, he visited every single day. They fell in love while she was dying. He proposed in that same hospital room. They got married 3 weeks later. And then the impossible happened. The cancer that was killing her, it disappeared. The doctors called it a miracle. Marcus called it love. 1 year after walking through the wrong door, Elena walked down the aisle as his wife, completely cancer-free, defying every medical explanation. This isn't just a love story. This is proof that destiny exists, that wrong turns lead to right places, that love can literally save lives. I have the hospital records, the wedding photos, the medical files that doctors still can't explain. And I have Marcus and Elena here to tell you every impossible detail. Stay with me for the next 50 minutes because what you're about to hear will restore your faith in everything. Let me take you back to March 15th, 2019. Detroit, Michigan. Marcus Thompson is 34 years old, 6'2", construction worker with hands that are more calluses than skin. He's a single father to Isaiah, age 7, and Marcus is barely surviving. Every morning starts the same. Alarm at 5 a.m. Shower in cold water because the hot water heater is broken and he can't afford to fix it. Make breakfast for Isaiah, usually cereal because anything more complicated requires energy Marcus doesn't have. Drive his son to school, watch him run toward the building, feel that crushing anxiety that something bad will happen to him too. Then drive to whatever construction site he's assigned to that day. 8 hours of physical labor that leaves his body aching but his mind blessedly empty. Pick up Isaiah at 3 p.m. Make dinner, help with homework, put him to bed. Then either collapse into his own bed or drive to his second job, security guard at an office building, working 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. 3 nights a week. Sleep 4 hours. Repeat. This has been Marcus's life for 3 years, ever since his wife Jasmine died. April 2016. Jasmine Thompson, 31 years old, emergency room nurse at Detroit General Hospital. Coming home from a night shift at 7 a.m. A drunk driver ran a red light going 60 miles per hour, hit her car on the driver's side. She died instantly. The drunk driver got 3 years in prison. 3 years for destroying Marcus's entire world. Marcus had to identify her body. Had to tell 4-year-old Isaiah that mommy wasn't coming home. Had to pack up her clothes, her nursing scrubs, her coffee mugs with inspirational quotes. Had to learn to be both parents overnight. Learn to cook, though he burned everything at first. Learn to do laundry, shrinking half of Isaiah's clothes. Learn to braid hair by watching YouTube at 2 a.m. Learn to be the tooth fairy, the homework helper, the monster under the bed checker, the everything. And he did it. He kept Isaiah fed, clothed, safe, loved. But Marcus himself, he was a ghost. Going through motions, surviving but not living, feeling nothing because feeling anything meant feeling the pain of losing her. His friends stopped calling after the first year. His family worried but didn't know how to help. Marcus built walls so high that nobody could reach him. He told himself it was better this way. If you don't love, you can't lose. If you don't feel, you can't hurt. His heart was a locked room and he'd thrown away the key. That was Marcus Thompson on March 15th, 2019, a dead man walking, and then his son broke his arm. The school called at 10 a.m. Isaiah fell off the monkey bars, ambulance taking him to Detroit General, possible fracture. Marcus dropped everything, drove to the hospital going 20 over the speed limit, hands shaking on the wheel. His mind spiraling with worst-case scenarios. What if it's worse than they said? What if Isaiah hit his head? What if Marcus loses him too? He couldn't lose Isaiah, he wouldn't survive it. He ran into the emergency room, found the desk, demanded to know where his son was. The receptionist barely looked up. X-ray now. He'll be in room 412 on the 4th floor in about 20 minutes. You can wait there. 4th floor, room 412. Marcus took the elevator, walked down the hallway checking numbers. 408, 410, 412. Except it wasn't 412. In his panic, his exhaustion, his fear, Marcus misread the numbers. The door he pushed open was room 421, and everything changed. The woman in the bed looked up when the door opened. Dark hair, pale skin, maybe early 30s, she was crying. Deep, broken sobs that shook her whole body. Connected to an IV, wearing a faded hospital gown surrounded by beeping machines. The room was empty. No flowers, no cards, no balloons. No signs that anyone cared she was there. Marcus froze. This wasn't his son's room. This was someone else's private moment of pain. "I'm sorry," he said immediately. "Wrong room." "I was looking for my son." He should have left. That would have been normal, appropriate, but something stopped him. Maybe the emptiness of the room. Maybe the way she was crying like her heart was breaking, and nobody was there to see. Maybe the look in her eyes when she glanced at him, a weariness so deep it reminded him of his own reflection. "Are you okay?" The words came out before Marcus could stop them. The woman wiped her eyes, embarrassed. "I'm fine, you should go find your son." But Marcus saw through the lie. He'd been telling the same one for 3 years. "You don't look fine," he said gently, and she broke. This stranger who owed her nothing had asked a simple question with genuine care, and it shattered her defenses. "I'm dying," she said, voice flat with shock and grief. "Stage 4 cancer. The doctors just told me this morning the latest treatment failed. They're out of options. 6 months, maybe less, and nobody's coming. My family stopped visiting. My friends have their own lives. So no, I'm not fine, but thank you for asking." Marcus felt like he'd been punched in the chest. This woman, young and alone, facing death in a sterile hospital room with buzzing fluorescent lights and beige walls. Facing it by herself. He thought about Jasmine dying alone in that car. Thought about the 3 hours he'd spent in a hospital waiting room by himself, knowing she was dead before anyone arrived. Thought about loneliness so crushing it felt like drowning. "Can I sit?" he asked. She nodded, confused but desperate for company, any company. Marcus pulled up the plastic chair next to her bed. "My name's Marcus. And I don't know why I walked into your room instead of my son's. Maybe I'm tired. Maybe I can't read, or maybe I'm supposed to be here, I don't know, but I'm here now. And if you want to talk, I'll listen. You shouldn't be alone with news like that." The woman stared at him. "Why, you don't know me. You have your own crisis." 3 years ago," Marcus said quietly, "my wife died in a car accident. I had to identify her body at this hospital. I was alone for 3 hours before anyone got there. It was the loneliest I've ever felt. So maybe I'm here because I know what that feels like. And maybe I can't change what happened to me, but I can make sure you're not alone today." Tears streamed down her face, but different now, not hopeless, grateful. "My name's Elena, Elena Martinez. And I don't know why you're here either, but I'm glad you are." They talked for 45 minutes. Elena told him about being a teacher, 3rd grade, how she loved her students and had to quit when cancer made her too weak to stand. About 2 years of fighting with chemo, radiation, surgeries that took pieces of her but never the disease. About family in Arizona who visited less and less as hope faded. About friends who meant well but couldn't handle watching her die. About spending Christmas alone in the hospital because everyone else had lives to live. Marcus told her about Jasmine. High school sweethearts, married young. Isaiah born 2 years later, plans for a future that a drunk driver destroyed in seconds, about learning to be both parents. About working 2 jobs to keep the lights on. About the numbness that replaced every other feeling. About going through motions of life without actually living. When Marcus's phone buzzed with a text that Isaiah was ready in the actual room 412, he stood to leave. "Can I come back?" he asked. "After I take my son home," Elena smiled, really smiled for the first time in weeks. "I'd like that. Coffee. Black, no sugar. How did you know?" Lucky guess. Marcus left, found Isaiah 3 doors down with a simple fracture and blue cast, took him home, got him settled. Then he went back. He brought Elena terrible hospital cafeteria coffee, and they talked for 2 more hours. About everything and nothing. Books they'd read, movies they loved, childhood memories. Dreams they'd had before life got complicated. It was easy, natural, like they'd known each other for years instead of hours. Marcus came back the next day, and the day after that. And the day after that, it became routine. Finish construction at 3 p.m., pick up Isaiah, get him settled with homework and Mrs. Chen from next door, drive back to the hospital. Bring Elena coffee or smuggled restaurant food because hospital meals were terrible. Sit in that plastic chair and talk until visiting hours ended. They talked about everything. Elena asked about Isaiah constantly, wanted every detail about his day, his friends, his homework. Marcus would show her pictures on his phone, videos of Isaiah doing silly dances or explaining something with intense 7-year-old seriousness. She'd laugh, really laugh, the kind that came from deep in the belly. He'd tell stories about Isaiah's questions. Dad, why do we park in driveways and drive on parkways? Dad, if you could fight 100 duck-sized horses or 1 horse-sized duck, which would you pick? Elena loved it. Loved hearing about this bright, curious kid being raised by a man who was doing his best despite overwhelming odds. Marcus asked about teaching. Elena's whole face would light up when she talked about her classroom, the reading corner with bean bags and bookshelves, the science experiments that sometimes went wrong in hilarious ways, the school plays she directed. Her favorite student, coincidentally also named Marcus, who struggled with reading but never gave up. How she'd stayed after school 3 days a week to help him, and by year's end he was reading at grade level. How his mother had cried and thanked her. Teaching wasn't just Elena's job. It was her identity, her purpose, her joy. Cancer had taken that from her along with everything else. One evening, 3 weeks after they met, Marcus brought his laptop. I have an idea. You can't be in a classroom, but what if we make videos, lessons that teachers could use or parents could show their kids? Elena's eyes filled with tears. You'd help me do that? Of course. You teach, I'll handle the tech stuff. They started that night. Elena wrote a lesson about the water cycle on a big pad Marcus bought. He set up his laptop to record. She taught like she had a room full of students, explaining evaporation and condensation and precipitation with examples kids could understand, making it fun and engaging. Asking questions to invisible students. Marcus edited the video, posted it on YouTube, not expecting much. Within a week, 5,000 views, dozens of comments from grateful parents and teachers. Elena cried reading them. She could still teach, still matter, still make a difference from a hospital bed. They made more videos, math, science, reading, writing, Elena planning lessons. Marcus recording and editing. It gave them both purpose. But more than that, they were building something together, a partnership, a connection, something neither wanted to name but both felt growing. About a month after they met, Marcus brought Isaiah to visit. Elena was nervous. What if Isaiah didn't like her? What if seeing her sick scared him? But Isaiah walked right up to her bed with pure child confidence. Hi, I'm Isaiah. Elena is a pretty name. It sounds like a princess. Elena laughed, charmed instantly. Thank you. Your dad talks about you constantly. He says you're the smartest, bravest kid he knows. Isaiah beamed. He showed her his cast, now mostly healed, covered in signatures, asked if she'd sign it too. Elena drew a small rainbow and wrote her name. They watched cartoons together, ate terrible Jell-O from the cafeteria. Isaiah told her about school, his friends, his favorite video games. When visiting hours ended and Isaiah left to wait in the hallway, he hugged Elena first. Will you be my friend too? I'd love that, Elena said through tears. After Isaiah left, Marcus stayed a moment. He really likes you. I really like him. He's amazing, Marcus. You're doing an incredible job. I'm trying. Some days are harder than others. I know. But he's happy, loved. That's what matters. They sat in silence for a moment, then Marcus took her hand. Elena, I need to tell you something, and you don't have to say anything back. You don't have to feel the same way, but I need you to know. Her heart raced. She knew what was coming and wasn't sure she could handle it. I love you, Marcus said simply. I don't know how it happened so fast. I don't know why walking through the wrong door brought me to you, but it did. And I fell in love with you, and I know you're sick. I know what the doctors said. But I don't care. Whatever time you have, whether it's 6 months or 60 years, I want to spend it with you, if you'll have me. Elena was crying now, overwhelmed with emotion. Marcus, I love you too. I've tried not to. I've tried to push you away in my head because this isn't fair to you. I'm dying. I'm going to hurt you, going to leave you, and you deserve better than that. Marcus shook his head firmly. You're not leaving me. Whatever happens, we face it together. And I'd rather have a short time with you than a lifetime without you. He got on one knee next to her hospital bed. No ring, no plan. Just a heart that was finally alive again after 3 years of numbness. Elena Martinez, will you marry me? She should have said no. It was too fast, too complicated, too unfair. But when you're dying, you learn something important. Life is short, love is rare. When you find it, you hold on. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I'll marry you. They got married 3 weeks later in Elena's hospital room. Not the wedding either had imagined, but perfect in its own way. Elena wore a simple white dress Marcus bought at a department store, the saleswoman crying when he explained why he needed it. Marcus wore his only suit, the one from Jasmine's funeral, but this time for a beginning instead of an ending. Isaiah was ring bearer, carrying 2 simple gold bands Marcus picked out. The hospital chaplain officiated. A few nurses who'd grown to love Elena attended. Mrs. Chen came. Elena's doctor came, tears in her eyes. It was small and imperfect and beautiful. When the chaplain said, "You may kiss the bride," Elena was too weak to stand for long. Marcus held her, supporting her weight completely, and whispered, "I've got you." Always, then he kissed her like she was the most precious thing in the world, because she was. The doctors gave them 6 months, maybe. The cancer was everywhere now, lungs, liver, spreading fast. There was nothing left to try. They recommended hospice, making her comfortable, preparing for the end. Marcus and Elena went home to his small house. He converted the living room into a bedroom so she wouldn't have to manage stairs. Isaiah helped decorate, hung pictures, brought flowers from neighbor gardens. Made welcome home signs with markers and glitter. They made every day count. Marcus took time off work, burning through vacation days and unpaid leave. They watched sunrises from the back porch, Marcus holding Elena wrapped in blankets. Had movie marathons, though Elena often fell asleep halfway through. Marcus read to her when she was too tired to keep her eyes open. Books she loved, poetry, stories about hope and love and second chances. Isaiah would come home from school and do homework at Elena's bedside, tell her about his day, show her his tests and projects. He started calling her Mom without anyone telling him to. Just started saying it naturally. "Mom, look at this drawing I made. Mom, can you help me with my spelling words?" The first time, Elena cried for an hour, happy tears, grateful tears. She'd thought she'd never be a mother, never have a family. Cancer had stolen that dream along with everything else. But here was this beautiful boy choosing her, loving her, giving her a title she'd never thought she'd have. For the first time since her diagnosis, Elena wasn't alone. She was loved. She was home. She was mom and wife and partner. She had purpose beyond just surviving another day. She had Marcus holding her hand through the pain. She had Isaiah's laughter filling the house. She had a family. And then something impossible started happening. Week by week, Elena got stronger. At first, Marcus thought it was just a good day, a temporary reprieve before the final decline. Terminal patients often rally before the end, but the good days kept coming. Elena had more energy, started eating more. The pain decreased. She could walk around the house without getting winded. Could stay awake through whole movies. Could help Isaiah with homework without her vision blurring from exhaustion. At her oncology appointment 6 weeks after the wedding, the doctor ordered new scans. Standard monitoring. They expected to see progression, tumors growing, new spots appearing. Confirmation that the end was near. But when the results came back, the doctor stared at the images in complete silence for a full minute, then called in 2 colleagues. They studied the scans together, conferring in medical terms Marcus didn't understand. Finally, the doctor turned to them. "I don't know how to explain this. The tumors have shrunk significantly. Some of the smaller ones are gone completely." Marcus felt his heart stop. "What does that mean?" "I don't know," the doctor admitted. "This doesn't happen with stage 4 cancer. Not without treatment, not like this. We need more tests, more scans, but—" She trailed off, shaking her head in disbelief. Over the next 3 months, Elena continued to improve. Every scan showed more reduction, tumors shrinking, cancer markers in her blood dropping, weight returning, color in her cheeks, energy increasing. The medical team was baffled. They ran every test they could think of, checked and rechecked results, consulted with specialists across the country. Nobody had an explanation. Spontaneous remission is real but extraordinarily rare, less than 1% of cancer patients. And it almost never happens with stage 4, but it was happening to Elena. 6 months after the wedding, her scans were clear. No evidence of disease. The cancer that was killing her had vanished. Gone, like it was never there. The doctors called it a medical miracle. Marcus called it love. Elena called it a second chance. March 15, 2020. Exactly 1 year after Marcus walked through the wrong door, Elena is cancer-free, healthy, strong. Back to teaching, now at Isaiah's school where she sees him every day. She runs a YouTube channel with 200,000 subscribers, teaching kids around the world. Marcus is down to one job, construction, making enough to support his family comfortably. Isaiah is 8, thriving, calling Elena mom without hesitation or confusion. He knows about Jasmine. Has pictures of her in his room. Knows she was his first mom and she loved him. But Elena is his mom now too. Hearts have room for more than one love. The doctors still can't explain what happened. They've written papers about her case, presented it at medical conferences. The consensus is spontaneous remission triggered by unknown factors, but Marcus and Elena know the truth. Love saved her life, not metaphorically, literally. The stress of being alone, facing death without support, was killing her as much as the cancer. When Marcus walked through that door, when he chose to stay, when he loved her without condition or fear, something in her body responded. The will to live became stronger than the disease. I spoke to Marcus and Elena last week. They're sitting in their living room, the one that used to be Elena's sick room, now restored to normal. Marcus has his arm around her. She's glowing, healthy, beautiful. Tell me about that first day, I ask. Marcus smiles. I walked into the wrong room, best mistake I ever made. I thought I was dying alone, Elena adds. I'd given up, made peace with it. Then this man I'd never met sat down and asked if I was okay. Nobody had asked me that in months, not really asked. And something in me decided maybe I wasn't ready to give up after all. The doctors say it's impossible, Marcus says. Medically unexplainable, but I know what I saw. I watched her dying. Then I watched love bring her back. People ask me all the time how it happened, Elena says. What I did differently, what treatment worked. I tell them the truth, love, being loved. Having a reason to fight, having a family waiting for me, that's what saved me. They're talking about having a baby now. Elena's doctors say it's possible. Risky, they'd have to monitor closely, but possible. Isaiah is excited about being a big brother. Marcus is cautiously hopeful, trying not to get ahead of himself, but Elena sees the joy in his eyes when they talk about it. Every morning, Marcus wakes up and looks at Elena sleeping next to him, still half convinced she's a dream, that none of this is real. That he'll wake up alone in his bed, 3 years trapped in grief, and realize it was all his imagination. But she's real, she's there, she's alive. Every year on March 15th, they go back to Detroit General Hospital. They stand outside room 421 on the 4th floor and thank God or fate or the universe or whatever power brought them together. Elena's former room is occupied by someone else now, some other patient fighting some other battle. But to Marcus and Elena, it will always be the place where their story began. Where the wrong door led to the right person, where dying alone became living together, where the end became a beginning. What would you say to someone going through what you went through? I ask Elena. She thinks for a moment. I'd say that even in the darkest moments, hope is possible. I'd say that love shows up in unexpected places if you're open to it. I'd say that miracles are real, even when doctors say they're impossible. And I'd say that sometimes the worst things lead to the best things. If I hadn't gotten cancer, I might never have been in that hospital. Marcus might never have walked through my door. I might have lived longer but loved less. Now I have everything. And you, I ask Marcus, what do you want people to know? I want them to know that it's okay to love again after loss. That it's okay to take chances even when you're scared. That closing yourself off to protect your heart doesn't actually protect anything. It just makes you miss the beautiful things that are trying to find you. I thought my story ended when Jasmine died. I thought I was done, but I was wrong. The wrong door, the wrong room, the wrong number. It led me exactly where I needed to be. This is the story of Marcus and Elena Thompson, a single father who walked into the wrong hospital room. A dying woman who was crying alone, a love that seemed impossible, a wedding in a hospital, a medical miracle that doctors still can't explain. 1 year later, they're not just alive. They're thriving, living proof that sometimes the biggest mistakes lead to the greatest blessings, that wrong turns can be right paths, that love, real love, can literally save lives. If this story touched you, share it, because someone out there is in a dark hospital room thinking they're alone. Someone is grieving a loss and thinking they'll never love again. Someone is sick and giving up hope. Someone needs to know that miracles happen, that second chances exist, that the wrong door might be exactly where they need to go. Thank you for staying with me through this journey. Thank you for believing in love. Thank you for believing in hope. Thank you for believing that sometimes, against all odds, impossible things happen. Marcus and Elena are living proof.